You got chronic, unrelenting, and constant pain?
And do you believe you need to have it?
What if the answer was no?
Yeah, you know what? What if that was actually the case? And guess what, guys? That is the case, because today we're going to discuss, is pain needed? And Tim, I wrote us a little song in honor of this episode. Want to hear it?
I want to hear it.
It's short. Here we go. Hurts no good. Unless you're a masochist, that hurts no good. You can't end your pain like you should when that is understood.
Awesome.
Take
Hey, I'm Dr. Tim Warren, and I'm happy to be here with Dr. Steve Taubman, and we're the Ouch Doctors, and this is episode 2 of new thinking about old pain. And hey, why are we doing this, Steve?
You know what? Old pain is pain that is mostly unnecessary. And I think it's so important for us to start looking at and thinking about and talking about pain, because most people have assumptions about their pain that aren't necessarily true. And we want to really kind of help you to jump to a new way of thinking about pain that leads you in a very positive direction.
Yeah, and just so you know, one more, just like we said the last time, we're not your doctors. We're the pain doctors. We're not your doctors. We know your doctors are awesome and you love them, but we're trying to share this great information and a new thinking about pain. And we want you to get the big ideas so you can ask more intelligent questions to your own doctors.
Absolutely, for sure. So today we're going to talk about, do you need pain? And this is a really important question, because most of us, again, assume that we need to be in pain. If we've got a condition that usually has pain associated with it, we just figure that means we got to be in pain. And that is not necessarily the case. So today we want to tease that out a little bit and really talk to you about whether pain is a necessary component of the condition that you might be experiencing. So we're going to get into some content around that. Before we do, if you happen to be watching us on YouTube, please go ahead and click that little red button, the little red arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, and subscribe to our channel. Got lots of great stuff to share with you over the course of the next several weeks, and we want you to be part of our tribe.
Absolutely. And we're ready to get to it, Steve?
I think so, yeah. So, Tim, I know you wanted to tell a personal story. Do you want to start there?
It is kind of personal. Do you mind if I talk about my intestines, Steve?
Well, you know, it's usually not done in polite company, but I think we could probably make an exception for you, Tim.
And, you know, I was not going to talk about this. This was not the original topic for today's discussion, but this is what happened. And I think it's important to kind of share it because it dovetails into exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I suffer from chronic diverticulitis. And it's not an every single day thing, but it's like a twice a year thing. And for those of you that don't know what diverticulitis is, it does lead to a lot of lower abdominal pain. And it's debatable on what exactly the cause is, but nevertheless, I have this. And it's kind of a chronic situation, which means it does, like I say, it springs up occasionally. Mm-hmm. And we did our first session last week, Dr. Steve and I told Dr. Steve I think it was the next day that, oh man, right after the show, this huge attack, and I was up all night and I had to go on antibiotics, which I really dislike doing. I only do that in case of emergency, obviously.
And I told Dr. that I have this effect on a lot of people, but
he does. But Dr. Steve gave me some great content, and he led me through a little exercise, and he had me put my hand on my stomach where it hurts and ask myself, is the pain that I was having, and again, it's very severe at times, it kind of comes in waves, and it goes between a 5 and a 10 in the pain severity scale. And so Steve suggested that I put my hand on my abdomen where it hurts the most, which I did, and kind of think, is there a reason that I'm having this pain? And initially nothing came to me. And then I kept meditating on this. And then I realized that what kept popping into my head was that it is related to fear. You know,
Mm.
Dr. Steve and I have been working on this course for a while. I was stressed about it a little bit. I'm not that up to date on technology. Technology scares me a little bit. So I had a little bit of anxiety about doing this, and I had stress, and boom, that's when it happened. So I believe it's related to fear, and I think the fear, as a result of the fear, I start to have, you know, all that stress and everything, and boom, it hits me where a weak spot is, and my lower intestine is certainly kind of a weak spot. And the other thing that came with my like meditating about this was the fact that I do also suffer from perfectionist syndrome, which is very common for people with chronic pain. And I know, Dr. Steve, we're going to do another talk sometime down the road about some other personality traits that are very common with people with chronic pain. But for me, perfectionism is one of them. And you have to do things exactly right, or don't do it. And that's stifling, and that creates more stress. And sometimes I feel that my chronic pain is kind of a distraction from these really uncomfortable emotions of fear, and also the personality trait of perfectionism.
Mm.
So I kind of wanted to start off and try that. So that was a very valuable exercise for me. And Dr. Steve led me through that. And I really meditated it several times. Actually, I meditated on that. And I wrote it down in my journal. And I highly recommend that everybody writes down in their journal, because there's a lot of great research that says that getting things out of your head and onto a piece of paper, even if you ball it up and throw it away, super part of the healing process for chronic pain.
Yeah, you know, guys, there's so much in that story. You know, first of all, just the very notion of putting your hand over an area of your body and asking that part of your body to give you information and wisdom seems a little weird, right? It seems perhaps a little woo or new agey, but the reality is that we have an enormous amount of body knowing. And when we tune in on that body knowing, often we'll get an answer about what's really going on. Why are we really feeling what we're feeling? And we get to ask ourselves, is this necessary? Is this pain that I'm feeling right now needed? Because quite frankly, often the pain isn't needed, or it was only needed for a short period of time and perhaps in a much lower level of severity than we experience it at. So that's one of the lessons or takeaways from this. The other are the really interesting things that you got from this, Tim, which included a realization that fear plays a big part in pain. And for those of you out there who are in chronic pain, that's an area you really want to explore, is where does fear live with you? Where does it live inside of you? And what's your compassion for your own pain look like? Are you rejecting it, pushing it away, pretending it's not there? Because if you are, and you're pushing it down, it will often come out as pain. And secondly, the idea of perfectionism. You know, Tim and I both are aware, because we work with a lot of people with chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia, for example, where the personality trait that we see again and again is perfectionism or workaholism, this tendency to have to keep in action. It's not okay to rest. It's not okay to kick back. And sometimes what our bodies do in those situations is to throw up a red flag by causing us to feel pain, because it's the only way that it'll get our attention.
Exactly. It sounds crazy, but it's totally true. And I've seen that with so many of my coaching clients. And, you know, fear means we don't feel safe, right? Mm-hmm. So safety is a huge component. Feeling safe or not is a huge component for people having progressive and recurrent chronic pain.
And I don't know about you, Tim, but I've had patients where just doing that kind of emotional release work, where perhaps there's trapped energy, blockages in somebody's ability to experience something like that, a feeling of safety, is something that we can often lose very, very early in life if we weren't, you know, raised in a nurturing way, or something traumatic happened to us when we were very young. Then we are going through life feeling a slight degree of unsafety, trepidation and fear, and that builds up in our bodies, that sometimes just by helping somebody at the deep subconscious level to experience safety, maybe for the first time in their lives, can sometimes instantaneously make a lifelong condition of severe pain go away. And by the way, I'm going to ask you something, Dr. Tim. Have you noticed that the severity of pain and the longevity of pain doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the correctability of that pain?
It has nothing to do with it. And I just know that, and as you do from being a chiropractor, is that, you know, for example, you can have a splinter in your finger and a son of a gun, but it's not a serious problem. It's
Right.
a, you know, you're going to forget about it tomorrow.
Right.
But in 30% heart attacks, the first symptom is death, and they didn't even have any pain, which is so weird. So the severity of pain is totally out of whack from the actual true severity of the issue. You can have a life-threatening problem and have zero pain, and you can have a really, you know, minuscule, non-existent, you know, life-threatening issue and have a tremendous pain. So it's such a weird thing, and it's all brain interpretation. So it's all just realizing that it's our brain that's 100% responsible for our pain and the interpretation of pain, but it can vary among people all over the place.
So this is a really interesting distinction for a lot of people out there, because again, we've said this before, we'll say it again and again and again. When we say the pain is in your brain, we're not saying it's all in your head and you're making it up. What we're saying is that the nerve signals that are going from the periphery, meaning from your body in toward your brain, are moving up to your brain, and then there's got to be a form of interpretation. So it gets to your thalamus and your hypothalamus, and then it gets to particular parts of your cerebral cortex where that pain is prioritized. And different people have a different pain threshold. Why is that, Tim? Why do people have different pain thresholds?
You know, it's based on prior neuroplasticity or training that you've gone into. Now, people that would have certain kinds of trauma in their life, maybe emotional trauma, physical trauma, PTSD, they have a different level of heightened awareness to pain too. And you know, one of the most interesting examples of the oddities of chronic pain is phantom limb syndrome. Now, this is pain in a part of the body that's not even there anymore. For example, in an amputation kind of example, every amputee has pain that their brain interprets, but the part may not even be attached anymore. How unbelievable is that? And that's an example of these neural pathways that are still wired for pain, even though the part is not there anymore, because that's all in the brain. And I think it's so important what you said, Dr. Steve, before, that your pain is real and it's not your fault. It's the wiring of the brain. So it's if you have continuously wired over years in there this chronic pain and this awareness of chronic pain, then it's going to take longer to get out of it than if it was a brand new problem. So it's the length of time, the severity of stress and trauma. Those are all components of how some people have a heightened awareness to it and some don't.
Absolutely. Now, another interesting thing to consider and to talk a little bit about is the reality that there's kind of a malleable or flexible perception of pain depending on what you're doing. How many of you out there have been busy, occupied with something that you love to do? Maybe you're playing with your grandkids, or maybe you're knitting a scarf, or maybe you're on stage performing, or whatever it happens to be. In those moments that you're completely absorbed in an activity, seldom do you actually experience pain. Now, that's got to be a really important piece of information for you if you were to look at it through what we're calling the new thinking about old pain. What does it mean to recognize that even though you've got this condition, the condition did not go away during the time you were doing the thing you were enjoying, and yet during that time, the experience of pain was completely gone. Yeah. Knowing that gives us a lot of power to realize that if I can turn off my pain switch when I'm absorbed in an activity, maybe I could turn my pain switch off completely and entirely, and then I don't need the pain.
How unbelievable. And you know what? It's just like a basic human thing. We want to have fun. People want to have fun. So having fun, doing the things that you like that bring you joy and happiness actually decrease our chronic pain. Right. So with me playing with grandchildren this weekend was so awesome because I wasn't overly focused on my own tummy pain, and I was just having fun with the grandkids. I was out watering my garden with a 2-year-old, having a complete ball, and I wasn't focused on my chronic pain, and I didn't even notice it at the time. So it's just a reminder for all of us: whatever brings you joy also helps you to decrease pain.
And this is a problem for people who've been in chronic pain for a period of time, and they've gotten to that sort of hopeless, debilitated state of consciousness where they feel like, but I can't do anything anymore. And the reality is that you can, if you recognize the relationship to your pain, and if you recognize that you're not actually doing any more damage to yourself, that you're better off doing something that brings you pleasure and joy than to just sit around and focus on the pain itself.
So true. And it's that is a really hard thing. And you described that really well, Steve, but it's so hard for people. And again, because we've built up fear that we're going to get worse if we do things. And the opposite is true. We have to gradually and systematically increase the use of our body. Our bodies were made to move, and never more so than when we're in chronic pain. The worst thing in the world is to sit in the couch and and flip channels on the TV all day. That is going to be the spiral down, and you're going to have more chronic pain. But then I know what you're saying in your mind. You're saying, oh my God, if I go for, a 2-mile walk, I'm going to get worse. You don't start with a 2-mile walk. You start with some action. You walk around your living room 20 times. I don't know, but we've got to increase the motion.
Yeah. The other,
that, Steve.
The other piece of that really is purpose. We all need a sense of purpose. Something that we're hoping to accomplish. And sometimes we set our purpose by simply setting a series of goals to gradually become more flexible, to do more, to be, just become more part of the world. So if you've become kind of a shut-in and you'd like to really let go of pain, now we're going to give you tons and tons of strategies over the course of the next 30 days. And some of them will resonate with you more than others. But during this entire period of time, set yourself up for winning by having some outcome that you seek. That gives you a sense of purpose, that gives you a direction, and then you move towards that even with baby steps.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And one little example that I talk with patients about quite a bit, or clients about, is discomfort versus pain. And I can remember a story briefly, and I know we're kind of getting to the next stage here, but I used to ride bicycles a lot with a friend, a local neighbor of mine, and he was in a little bit better shape than me. And I can remember one time we were riding our bikes up this long, gradual hill, and I was hurting, man. My legs were screaming, my chest was heaving. I was really, I was kind of dropping behind him, which was, I wanted to stay with him. And then suddenly I said to myself, you know what? Am I really in pain, or am I just in discomfort? And then instantly what popped into my mind was, you're totally in discomfort. This is not pain. This is just discomfort. And you chose to be here. So I buckled down, and almost instantly, and I didn't even expect this, I felt fantastic. I felt great. And I pulled right back up my bike right behind his, and and climbed and pushed all the way up to the top of the hill, and felt great. And I never forgot that. That was about 15 years ago. And whenever I do have some pain, some chronic, remember that story, because if it's just discomfort, then keep going. If it's pain, truly, then sometimes I have to modulate what I do and don't do. But a lot of times it's just discomfort, even if it's strong discomfort.
That brings up the power of language. Often we use language around pain that actually accentuates and irritates us without realizing it. Most of us think that our language is just descriptive. If I say this is killing me, I think that I'm just describing the degree of pain that I'm in. But what I'm actually doing is I'm further predicting the future. See, every time I say something out loud or even in my own head and I accept that, then in essence, what I'm doing is I'm setting the neurological stage for future activities. So really start reframing how you look at pain. Start looking at those things that Tim described as discomfort, as annoyance, as opposed to this thing is killing me. And see if just by changing your language, it might change the frame you have around your pain and the degree and severity of the pain you're experiencing. Pain is malleable.
That, just like I mentioned the last time, that being on this show, watching Dr. Steve and myself, you are doing a little bit of retraining of your nervous system, and you're actually healing just by listening to us. Remember we said the last time that it's knowledge therapy is the first step. You're getting knowledge therapy. Maybe you're hearing some things that you hadn't heard before. this starts to re-etch the pathways in your brain, your chronic pain nerve supply. It changes things. You're healing. We're all healing. I'm healing. Dr. Steve's healing.
I know I felt something. That's great, man. I really appreciate you bringing that up. So guys, what we want to do today is we want to leave you with another awesome tip, a giant tip, what we like to call our daily transformational tip. This is a little bit of homework for you to try for the next 24 hours until we meet again. And that is, I'd like to ask you to practice what we talked about earlier, is to ask your body if it needs the pain that you're in right now. Put your hand right where the pain is. Do I need this pain right now? Often your body is trying to tell you something, and when you touch base with it and tune into it, you may get an answer like, okay, well, as long as you know I'm here, as long as you're willing to take the necessary action, I'll shut off, and that pain might go away. So always take that first moment. Do I need this pain right now? See what happens. Tell us about what happens, and we'd love to hear your thoughts and your experience as time goes on.
Very cool.
So, Tim, I think we're kind of coming in on the home stretch here. I guess we want to just mention our plans for tomorrow.
Right. And the language of pain relief is what we want to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna also look at sort of who the players are in the whole journey of your pain. Like what's your conscious mind? What's your subconscious mind? How does your body play into it? How does your mind play into it? And also, by the way, how does your doctor's voice in your head play into it, and your mother's voice, and all those other voices that sometimes make you think, yeah, my doctor told me that I'm going to be in pain for the rest of my life. I guess I've got to be in pain for the rest of my life. So these things all play a component in this whole process.
There's a lot of players. Yeah. So that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to talk with you tomorrow about that, Steve.
So guys, make sure to go visit our, here we go, I'm going to bring this up. If you're interested in knowing more about doing some work with me and Tim, we are available for consultations to talk to you a little bit more about your individual issues and see if we could help you get to the bottom of them and get you healthy and happy. So this is how you reach us. My email address is steve@stevetama.com. Tim is Tim at drtimwarren.com. So we're looking forward to this. We'll be talking about the language of pain. We're going to be talking about the players in pain. And until we meet again, remember, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.